So it's the first week on the farm with the crew, and it's already been an eventful one. We fired up the nursery and got some planting done. So we planted some salanova, some onions, and some spinach. Then we put up the wall to partition the greenhouse. Of course, with that, you have to fire up your furnaces, so our propane furnace. And then our backup furnace, which I'll show, runs from our outdoor boiler. And when we went to fire it up, we realized that the pump that pumps the hot water to this greenhouse from the boiler had been broken all winter. So we replaced the pump, and then when we replaced the pump, we realized when we got the water flowing and heard a nice flow of water hitting the plastic right here, that of course when the pump had broken, the water was no longer flowing to here, the hot water. So it had cracked from cold water sitting in there and expanding in here. So really exciting already. Got some lows right with our highs. We have had to now replace the pump, and I've ordered the new piece for this to be replaced. So it'll be close to $1,000 to get our backup and running. And the issue with that is that you could just maybe save the $1,000 and not replace all that, but we're gonna be filling this with thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of potential revenue. And if our propane goes out, we don't want to risk not having a backup. So I would rather take the hit for the $1,000 and get our little backup set up. The little engine that could, it's not nearly as powerful as the big one, but it does get it. We set it to about 2 degrees lower than that. So if it ever goes out, this just keeps everything alive. With a couple minor hiccups, we do have the nursery all set up. We've got the wall up. We've got the furnace running. Backup now will be repaired soon. So all things considered, we're pretty good. Happy to just have the plants being planted. We've got some successful stuff going on here, and all in all, a pretty good week to start here. So unfortunately, we missed these in December. They were not quite ready for the Christmas markets, and we have a whole bed of them that somehow got ready throughout December. They were pretty nice, but now they're frozen. So to the chickens they go. So we're just pulling out these turnips and flipping these beds to prepare them for some direct seeding. We're going to plant radish and turnip later this day. The prep will just involve a little bit of broad forking, some raking, and then some amendments, and they're ready to rock. So we're just planting spinach for the paper pot trays. We've always weighed seed for direct seeding, but something we just began doing last year was also doing it for some of our transplanted crops. The reason is, for example, when we're doing a lot of spinach, it's hard to gauge how much we're using each time or when we would need to order new seed. So this is our first planting of spinach. We're gonna weigh the total seed before we plant. Then we're gonna do one planting, which is 2 beds. So then we'll know how much weight we're using every time we're doing a planting. So then we know if we'll have enough for our 4 spring plantings. And then we'll also know how much to order for our fall plantings as well. So a really nice system to just see how much weight you're dropping each time, just like direct seeding. Paper pot trays have a lot of cells, 264, so they can be very time consuming to drop, like to hand seed. So a drop seeder comes in super handy. So this is a really nice system where the seeds fall into here, and then when you line them up, they all fall in. So we will fill this with spinach seed, and then we'll just do 3 in a row, and then we'll set this aside and then do 3 more, and that system continues, and that's how we effectively plant a whack ton of spinach for transplanting. A bunch of seed in, plenty. We want to make sure these holes are not aligned. That's super important at any point. And then we just shuffle it around. I don't mind 2 seeds per cell, but we don't want 3. Sometimes there's a third just sitting on top. So I just quickly brush it all away. And it's not, you don't have to be perfect or super particular, but just like that. Shake all that away, and then we're just gonna line it up. So I just do the 4 corners to be sure that we're good. 1, 2, 3, 4, lined up, and then close it. And you just give it a few taps, and we normally have a brush on hand. Here we are. We'll be purchasing a new brush. Must not be UV treated. Voila! And then you repeat. So that's the grafting clips that just arrived. So that's huge news. So that means we can graft before the weekend. I knew they would. So just checking on the grafts. I'm gonna water them this morning, which is 24 hours before we graft, and you don't water them again. So the reason for that is you don't want them to have too much water, as that can actually prevent them from grafting nicely. So these look decent, definitely ready to go. We will water them a little bit, but only the ones that need it, because again, we don't want them to be too wet. A really simple way to see if it's ready to graft is using a grafting clip. So I'll show you, this is what a grafting clip is. It's a little silicone plastic thing that fits over the stem and holds it together after you've sort of clipped them. So that's one of the bigger stems I could find, and it looks like it fits really nicely on there. So we should be golden for tomorrow. Okay, so they've got 2 tunnels done. What we do is in the fall, in the past, we've taken the plastic off to store it inside, but we've realized by actually looking on social media, a great resource, and seeing other people do this strategy. So this is our first year doing this, and this has saved us tons of work, both in the fall and in the spring, where we just tie it up on the arches to make sure that it can hold well throughout the winter. It's not gonna gather snow load, and it's held really nice. The only downfall is that I've heard reports that we're getting a little wet when we take the strings off. So that's the only negative, but I think we're all happy with how quickly it is coming together. These will heat up really quickly, so I know that we have to work these beds. The 2 tunnels over there are actually, the beds are pretty well ready to go. This has a lot more work to do, but regardless, we'll be planting in those in a couple of weeks, and this in about 3 to 4 weeks, and we'll have a nice chance to warm the soil and get it worked and have these beds prepped and ready to go. So you can see here the crew working to just throw the strings over the Caterpillar tunnel, and that's how we brace it down over the hoops. There's carabiners and then stakes that are placed into the ground that the ropes go around and hold the plastic down to. So I'm firing up our irrigation as well for our greenhouses to get some spring watering going. And it's really neat, the brand new system we have from last year. It's from Dubois Agri-Innovation, and it is a setup that allows us to irrigate our greenhouses in the shoulder season when we don't have our pond open yet. We can just fill them with a hose. It's 2,000 liter tanks and a pump. And then it's also connected to automation so that in the main season we can use these to regularly irrigate our greenhouses using Orisha, so I can program it from my phone without having to worry about turning the pump switch on and off. So it's a phenomenal system. We fill this with a hose, and during the season we actually just use, it fills when we're irrigating the fields. It just naturally continuously fills because it has a float valve in it. Then it's connected to a manifold to irrigate both tunnels through automation. So it's got switches, like valves down here, that we pre-program through the app for Orisha, and we set the number of times throughout the day and the duration of each irrigation. So we're using that right now to irrigate our greenhouses because we don't have our pond, obviously is frozen still. So I've just filled it with the hose, gonna get it set up, but I have run into an issue. These are the pressure regulators. So this is for, because otherwise you would cause issues with your drip, because the pump is obviously pumping far more than the drip can handle. So these are set up for 12 PSI right now. I have to switch it out for overhead. So I'm gonna be switching one of these out for a 25 PSI, which is the ideal for overhead irrigation. And then that's gonna get us irrigating in here. And then I'll use the same one to run a hose over to our other greenhouse. Got the pump turned on here, and it automatically shuts off when it hits 60 PSI. It's when we want to turn it on manually. I have this little option here. Now we're gonna get ready to get wet. Here we go. I like to just race it to the far end, because we have this little valve open, because any dirt in that line will shoot up into those, and that's bad. So we have this open to clear the lines first, because then it just flushes straight out. There's no pressure to push it up into the overheads. So it just flows right through. See all that dirt? That was dirty water. So now that's running clear, it's cleared that out. Now, close that up, and boom, we sprinkling. And these will get going really good in a second here. So, what's really neat about this spinach is that, like, you can tell this one along the edge where it's more wet because the water has melted, the snow has melted, and water has come in. So these are naturally more wet beds, are doing okay, less yellow, more nice green. These middle ones where they really needed water, obviously, and hopefully haven't suffered too much with lack of thereof, right here. So now I'm gonna irrigate these really well, and hopefully these spinach that look like they're just so healthy, potentially, but have not had enough water, are gonna be raring to go. We've also done an experiment in here that I'm extremely excited about. Alongside the spinach beds are these beds of winter rye, and that's where our tomatoes will go. So this is our 3rd year of growing tomatoes in this tunnel, which is why we graft. We're grafting tomorrow, I'll get into that. But these rye beds were just an experiment, so I'm gonna mow this down late March, early April, and then we'll be tarped for 2 weeks to just kill it off. And then we'll plant the tomatoes into these beds that are hopefully replenished through the winter rye, and we'll be doing that April 15th. So pretty exciting little experiment, and I'm excited to see if it benefits the tomatoes this year. I'm also seeing that the pressure isn't as good as it should be, so I'm gonna quickly turn this off and clean the filter. There's a little filter in there and it can get jammed up pretty quick. Right here. So see, the PSI is low, so that means something's probably wrong here. Already seeing that pressure way better. So there was definitely just a clog in there. You can see the difference in the intensity of that irrigation now. That's rocking. Woo! One thing down from the to-do list, let's roll. So I'm quickly setting a 30-minute timer on that so I don't forget to come back to it. And then my goal in that 30 minutes is to get these 2 beds direct seeded for some early market radish and turnip. And then I'm gonna stop, switch the irrigation, and then irrigate that. So quick things, 30 minutes, let's see if I can do it. So we got the Jang 5 here, and I'm doing radish and turnips. Typically in the past we were doing 10 rows per bed for radish, but I'm actually gonna do an experiment dropping 60% seed, because last year we had a lot of waste in the field and things not sizing up, and I wanna see if dropping less seed does better. So this is a great chance to do this early in the season. So I'm going from 10 rows down to 6, same as we do for our turnip. So we're gonna run this Jang down and back for both of those, then cover it with row cover to help keep the moisture in to improve germination, and also that'll warm it at night, etc. And then we're gonna irrigate. Like I said, just switch from over there to here. So today's the graft day, pretty excited. Last night, this is the grow room. I turned, like, the lights are still off. Normally they'd be on by now from the timer, but we don't want the plants to be in a state of growth. So I unplugged the heater and turned the lights off. So I'm just gonna dip in here to get the thermostat to see what it's at. So yeah, perfect. It was at 18, so we just want to slow the growth, bring it down a bit. So next is set up our workstation. I only like to do it with 2 people, so we're just gonna have 2 spots here. We work side by side. That way it's just, I personally, if I was trying to manage a team of 4 to do the grafting, I think it would get things way out of whack. I like to just be focused with 2 people. We can work alongside, communicate, and make sure it all gets done in one shot. The importance of doing it all in one shot is that we now will turn that room into a healing chamber. So it's going to be high humidity, high heat, a nice cozy tropical environment for the grafts to heal for the next 10 days. And we will gradually climatize them back to a regular growing environment. And that's when we will, when they've healed, we will move them out to the greenhouse to harden off and then pot them up a couple days later. It's important to give credit where credit's due. And we wouldn't have been able to take on grafting, I don't think, or had the confidence to do it without the Market Gardener Masterclass. It gives you the full walkthrough of how to do it, the steps taken to heal them properly. It's very regimented in how the temperature is adjusted, the humidity is adjusted, the number of hours of light over the 10-day healing period is extremely regimented and important to follow closely to ensure they heal properly. And there's a lot of risk involved in this because the rootstock are almost $1 a seed and the scions are almost $1 a seed. So these plants, before even calculating any labor and all the effort that's been taken to grow them under lights early in the season, all the effort taken to graft them, water them, care for them. So they're easily $2 per plant. So when we're doing over 750, like we're talking $1,500 worth of tomatoes here. So you want to be sure that you're treating them right and making sure you're getting a high percentage of success, low percentage of fatality when you're doing this. We've got all the plants out of the grow room now on the ground here so that we can now set it up and start climatizing it. So we want to get it up to that high heat and high humidity, and we'll close it in, and then everything that after it's grafted goes right into that lovely nice environment to start its heal right away. We're now already begun grafting. So to be clear what grafting is, Estamino is the rootstock we use, so we've grown that on trays here. And then we are going to take the scions, the tops that we want, the fruiting tops, and cut them and place them on top with a grafting clip. Then they will heal, and on we go.